and the omnibus. So I was forced into the Archers when I was a child. And look, it's come back to bite me later on. I'm awash with this stuff.
The Archers is the world's longest-running radio show, with more than 15,000 episodes broadcast. Despite being a rural flavour show, The Archers is recorded in the heart of...
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at this really intense snapshot of rural life. It's a look at the kind of logistical and financial pressure that's just bearing down on modern farmers as 2025 comes to a close.
It's an incredible portrait, really, because what you're seeing isn't just a bit of bad luck. It's the raw reality of farming on these razor-thin margins.
Yeah.
And when you get a series of setbacks, low rainfall, sewage issues hitting the crops, the whole thing just pivots. It goes from being difficult to being an immediate existential threat.
Okay, let's unpack that. Our focus is on Esme at Meadow Farm, and she is staring this threat right in the face. Her problem sounds simple, but it's absolutely critical. She needs winter supplies.
Fodder, mainly.
To keep her herd alive through the next few months, and she has a hard deadline.
Answer by Wednesday. Exactly. And the mission for this deep dive is really to pull out the lessons from her situation. It's about how to manage resources under extreme stress, about financial agility, and I think most importantly, the role the community plays when, corporate solutions just aren't there.
So let's start with the hard numbers, or I guess the lack of them. The immediate problem is a silage shortfall.
That's the winter fodder for the livestock, right?
And at the start of the winter, her stores were only half full, which leaves her, and this is the quote, nowhere near having enough to get the herd through to spring.
It's a ticking clock, but it's measured in hay bales. And this is where it gets so much more dangerous. It's not just a supply problem. It quickly becomes a cash flow emergency.
Because it's piling on top of everything else.
On top of pre-existing debt, specifically.
And that's the key, isn't it? It's not just about ordering more feed. It's about paying for it now. She's already trying to get a handle on this place. And the sources mention legacy debt she's dealing with. So she's facing this huge, sudden expense that she just wasn't ready for.
Well, and you have to distinguish between operational debt and a liquidity crisis. The long-term debt with the accountant, that's a known quantity. It's manageable. But the sudden cost of all this winter feed, that creates a liquidity panic. She needs thousands of pounds, today.
And she seems very aware of the traps. She's already working out payment plans with Alistair the vet to cover her current bills.
She's being proactive.
And crucially, she's trying to avoid what she calls the slippery slope of high-interest financing.
Because for a farm on those kinds of margins, high-interest loans are just. They're an extinction event. They compound the pressure faster than
the farm can possibly generate revenue.
Exactly. It turns a recoverable problem into a death spiral. The fact that she's avoiding that, even in a panic, shows she's financially astute.
It's such a stressful balancing act. And what's so interesting is how that pressure is... It was woven into this very personal commitment. You can tell she feels very close to her late father's legacy, even as she's facing this potential failure.
And the animals.
The animals, yeah. You hear these little details about the herd. She knows their personalities. There's Donna, the cow who kicks, and her partner in crime, Blitzen.
And that connection, I think, it really highlights the psychological burden. It's not just a business that might fail. It's the potential collapse of a family's life work. That's what fuels this frantic last-ditch effort to find a solution.
Which brings us to the puzzle. With the debt, with that Wednesday deadline, how on earth do you solve what looks like an impossible supply problem? The normal supply chain has failed. She has to go rogue.
And that urgency forces her to rely on, well, you could call them unconventional resources, or maybe just old-fashioned ones. This is where the source material is just fascinating. It shows the incredible power of those traditional face-to-face networks in farming.
Wait, so in an age of global logistics and digital commodity trading, the best information is still found over a cup of tea in a cafe. Doesn't that sort of indict the modern supply chain?
I don't think it's an indictment so much as a necessary hedge. When the formal system seizes up, when you need a huge amount of stock right now, it just can't move fast enough. So David, another local farmer, tells her straight up, her best bet is probably at the market. He says the real deals are still done in the cattle market cafe. It's a closed-loop intelligence system. It's all about trust.
And that's where she gets the crucial lead. A contact at the market points her to a dealer, but he's in South Wales.
Hundreds of miles away.
A huge distance. And here's the kicker. Time is running out, and the dealer isn't answering his phone. So modern communication fails, and she has to fall back on the oldest way of doing business.
Absolutely. The dealer needs an answer, and fast. So she has to consider driving all the way down there herself. She needs to be there in person to haggle for a rock-bottom deal and, shake on it.
The handshake is the contract.
The handshake is the contract, and the visit is the guarantee. The transaction isn't real without that personal commitment.
And of course, the cash flow problem rears its head again. They're scrambling for money for the purchase, for the fuel. David even suggests having their neighbor, Josh, try to flog some of the old machinery in the barn.
Which her brother, Ben, pretty quickly dismisses as a long shot. A bit of desperation creeping in.
Right. The machinery sale is probably a fantasy, but the real problem is just the drive itself. She needs a driver, and Josh is, well, he's reluctant. He'd rather be under his duvet watching old black and white movies.
Possibly nursing a hangover, the sources suggest.
Ah, the classic hangover defense. But this is where you see another kind of currency come into play. Ben realizes they can leverage Josh's devotion to his girlfriend, Nina,
who just happens to have a gig in Cardiff.
Which is very convenient to South Wales. It's a brilliant piece of adaptive problem solving. The motivation completely shifts. It's not about money for flogging machinery anymore.
No, it becomes emotional. It's about seeing Nina, even if it's just for hot chocolate after the gig, as Ben suggests. That emotional pull is what gets Josh out from under the duvet behind the wheel. And just like that, a complex transport problem is solved.
And if you zoom out, this whole crisis just perfectly illustrates the profound interdependence of this community. Survival really is a team sport.
And the resources they share go so far beyond just cash. You see this wisdom coming from Pat Archer, who Esme's father called the formidable woman. Yeah. Pat is like the institutional memory of the community. Bridge Farm were organic pioneers, Yeah. That takes real resilience.
And her advice is really the core philosophical takeaway here. It's so simple, but it's clearly a hard-won truth. She says, be on good terms with your farming community. It's a hard life. It's why we need each other. Mm-hmm. That's not just a nice sentiment, it's a strategic business plan.
It really is.
Yeah.
And you see practical, specific examples of this mutual aid everywhere. Take the turkey plucking.
Introducing the Archer's mug, where elegance meets everyday comfort. Crafted from premium white ceramic, designed with vibrant peekaboo colors inside, simple, modern, and stylish. Start your day the Archer's way, with warmth, familiarity, and the comfort of voices you've come to love. As the stories unfold on the Archers, let this mug become part of your daily ritual, a small reminder of life in Ambridge. Practical for every home, dishwasher and microwave safe. Available in 2 sizes, 11 ounces and 15 ounces, designed to fit your lifestyle. Enjoy your favorite drink in a mug that connects you to Britain's most beloved countryside story, The Archers. For more information and to order your very own The Archers mug, follow the link below and make it part of your daily routine.
That's incredibly strenuous collective work. You can't just hire someone for that on short notice. And look at the currency they use. It's shared labor and it's homemade food.
Yes. Esme is paying for help with homemade bacon, biscuits, cider, sausage rolls. It's basically bartering. Those sausage rolls are as good as cash for getting an immediate favor. They're social capital she can draw on.
And that reciprocity is just baked in. It's ready to go. Ruth has already offered to cover milking if Esme needs to drive to Wales. That's unconditional support offered before the trip is even a sure thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the value of that kind of reassurance when you're in the middle of a logistical nightmare, it's immense.
And even with all this stress simmering underneath, you still see the natural rhythms of the calendar providing this psychological buffer. There's the anticipation of the December solstice, the days are finally getting longer.
The symbolic shift from darkness to light.
And the Ambridge Christmas lights are going on. There's excitement for the Christmas Eve tractor run.
These aren't just distractions. They're vital community rituals. They reinforce the bonds they all need to get through the winter. And you get these wonderful little details like Terry being locked away with his Fordson tractor, keeping his decorations a secret for the big reveal.
And Eddie's just boundless enthusiasm. He's described as a big old kid. He tried to convince his wife to make him a turkey costume for the market.
Because he needed to grab the punter's attention.
It's that kind of giddy atmosphere that helps keep morale up when the financial news is just relentlessly grim.
But we do need to note the signs of stress. They're subtle, but they're there, underneath all the festive cheer. Despite all the excitement, Pat Archer, the pillar of wisdom we just talked about, her family observes she's not being her usual self.
And that's a really critical observation. It suggests the pressure of this hard life is systemic. Even the strongest, most successful people in the community are feeling the strain. Everyone is vulnerable.
So the forward-looking perspective becomes a survival mechanism in itself. People are so ready to put 2025 behind them, you hear one character just say, "Amen to that." And the focus shifts immediately to the hope of the future, to things like lambing season, which symbolizes a new year, new start.
And finding small, tangible purpose becomes essential for, just staying sane amid all the uncertainty. George, for instance, finds this renewed purpose in his dog, Holly, just taking her for walks despite the rain. It's a shift towards something manageable, something that pulls your focus away from the paralyzing complexity of the farm's finances.
It's a classic coping mechanism, finding an immediate positive thing you can control when the big picture feels totally out of your hands.
So what does this all mean? Our deep dive into Esme's crisis shows that in modern farming, the real solutions, they're not on a spreadsheet. They rely on market intelligence you get face-to-face, on deep community reciprocity where sausage rolls are a legitimate currency, and on a willingness to drive hundreds of miles to shake on a deal.
And that handshake isn't romanticism. It's a necessary hedge against market volatility that, corporate logistics just can't solve for when you need urgency and trust. The real crisis in low-margin farming isn't just debt, it's the lack of liquidity. And the solution is a highly liquid personal trust network.
Exactly. So this brings us to a question for you to think about. In a world with more and more logistical complexity, more financialization in every industry, why does the most critical leverage, the thing that stops you from going under, still come down to a personal relationship, to a community?
Just consider the real economic value of those homemade sausage rolls. Think about what they secure in terms of favors and contacts, and you realize that relationship is, it's priceless.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We encourage you to look for those informal networks, those personal currencies, in your own world. We'll see you next time.
So, what are you doing now?
Just getting ready for the next episode. Just
And,
moving mics around.
So, what do you do?
I do the spot effects on the arches. Any
Are you what we
movements
call Foley then?
and- kind of. Yep.
Okay. And these are all part of the paraphernalia of production.
Yep. That's the bull bar. That's,
This one.
yep. That's.
Haley so wanted to be in their own place when their baby came. It's due in 2 months. Not much chance of that now. No. I mean, it would have been a stretch for them financially, mind, but I just wish there was something practical I could do to help them, Caroline.
I think The Archers has had this immense popularity over the years, basically because it has always very accurately reflected the reality of life and living in a rural community at whatever